to be slavery for me, and let the whole world see that with them in the cage and safer in the streets. Put the dog on a leash, get resolved for the beast. 144, get the ruler show, we could all be at peace. As soon as the trumpets are sound, your kingdom we busting it down. The only way justice is found, the time for your judgment is now.
You'll see just how it feels. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog.
Look, ain't no remorse in my blood slim. It won't be no compromise. Now it's time to feed the worms. Watch his body turn to flies. I clutch iron while you trust the lies. The next Glock I buy gon' be Gen 5. I get it customized. And sending shots off like farewell. Praying payback come back around like a carousel. Still remember YAHANNA's words ringing in my head like bells. Said you in his body, you fit the Lord, fuck the cartel. Triangle choke, apply pressure to the game like I did Vondale. Payback's a bitch in a dress, she a bombshell. Revenge is dish served cold, I just hope they make an oxtail. Glock fresh out the box, I swear it got that new car smell. Made myself a target in the world of mad shooters. That was designed fire for our babies to pass through. In the day of our king's reign, I'll be overzealous. They bought my jealous, I bought brand new parabellums.
Someday you'll see just how it feels. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a
According to God, the white man is the devil.
See, I've been in here for a little minute. You know what I'm saying? And I see niggas, they like to talk a lot. They like to claim leadership. They like to claim this and that. You know what I'm saying? They like to be above what they really is and have authority. But they don't really need that authority. They don't really know what to do with that leadership. You understand? You hold hands with this white ass, need to stop and ask you to give a damn what you talk about. Don't give a fuck what you believe, nigga. Gotta stand up and serve my God. We don't pray on our knees, nigga. Yeah. See, everybody ain't with all that peace talk. Everybody ain't with all that bygone be. Boy, ass need to stop and ask you to prop. It's about to get serious. Boy, when they hit us with dope and kill us with crack, what the fuck with your leaders? I'm curious. He cashed out on your blood, traded you in and bought a new biz. Ask you the prophets, I tell you the scheme. If you don't wake up, you gon' die in your dreams. I say you won't tell you no more. I swear these crackers try to kill us slow. Just spoke to a nigga and fed he up on parole because of the COVID. It feel like the hoes in this world that don't go together. Nowhere is gold in the ghetto. I'm in the city blazing with my niggas. Just told the devil the score never settled. See the prophets. I'm tired of these niggas keep talking about, you know, you respect my religion, I respect your religion. Boy, your ass need to stop and ask you the prophets. You know, like we all come together. You know what I'm saying? They say God so loved the world. God so loved the world, and know your ass need to stop and ask you the prophets. Don't give a damn what you talk about. Don't give a fuck what you believe, nigga. Gotta stand up and serve my God. We don't pray on our knees, nigga. Yeah. Hey, gentlemen, y'all, we don't pray on our knees, nigga. Gotta stand up. You know what I'm saying? Boy, your ass need to stop and ask you to one step, I'm solid for show. To the fake niggas, stay silent, I got it, let's go. I ain't taking no loss, ain't no talking when we got the flow. Ain't no peace, just play with your own. I'ma be loyal to the right arm. Tell them we can't keep it slate. And I can never let bygone be bygone. Got your baby mother on high, got your baby pants through the fire. Ask you the prophets, that baby so belong to the Lord. How dare you abort it? Devil will fail you, bitch, I can afford it. I prepare. Slaughter, you bring me my water. Push your leaders weak, let them lies slip through their teeth. Their ass need to stop and ask you the prophets.
That's just the reality, Christians. I'm sorry to hurt your feelings. I know your pastor lied to you every Sunday for 30 years, right. But that's what the church is for. Lie.
have to die to meet the devil. Angels fell and landed in the ghetto. The earth was given to the hands of devils. Then we seen the rise of the devil. We fell for the lies of the devil. When we got high was the devil. I looked into the eyes of the devil. I ain't have to die to meet the devil.
I remember I was only 13 when I met the demon. Gave me a deuce and a bundle of cocaine. Told me to sell to my people, make sure you keep them fiending. If any try to shoot you, make sure that you leave him leaking. He said,
I'ma hold you down when problems pop up.
how you got me moving this dope? Want me in lockup? He said,
Don't you want the Benz vertible with the top up?
Yeah.
Stop, bitch, and get in that kitchen. Let it rock up. Bitches love the dope boy, especially when it's wop up. I know you know Ron.
who the plug from by the block up?
I'll tell you a little secret. Make sure that you keep your mouth shut. Ron got a Lexus, crib in Philly and Texas. Trips to the Bahamas, just got a whip for his mama. He fucking up in commas. Be honest, he seemed decent though.
I hear you, but I just seen Ron about a week ago. In fact, he ain't looking too good. His knees is kind of slow. I asked him why the struggle. He got stuck up for his bundle, but them 6 hollow tips in his legs what made him crumble.
He got a house and mama is living good.
Said the feds took it all. He right back in the hood. I see you try to play me. You gave us crack in the 80s. Made us abort our babies and making hoes out our ladies. I know you got me gravy, but Satan, you must be crazy. It's gonna take more than them cars when to amaze me. I seen niggas shoot for the stars, but being lazy. Never get their head at the clouds, so you don't faze me.
I guarantee that you gon' regret it. Remember I said it.
Nah, you could dead it.
What you saying? I can't win?
Nah, devil, nice try. So until we meet again,
I ain't have to die to meet the devil. Angels fell and landed in the ghetto. The earth was given to the hands of devils. Then we seen the rise of the devil. We fell for the lies of the devil. When we got high was the devil. I looked into the eyes of the devil. I ain't have to die to meet the devil. I ain't religious or superstitious, but we've been getting fucked and put to the side like a mistress. Police patrolling why? Because prison became a business. They murder one of ours and they start talking about forgiveness. We think that it's alright because we got public assistance. If this ain't hell, dog, what?
Hey, Shalom, Israel. Let's clap it up. Let's clap it up. Shalom, Israel. Priest and Officer Waga Bar, we up in here. We got some history. We got a little bit of law. We got a little bit of everything. We're going to touch on some archaeology in the Bible, showing you that the Bible is actually real. Also, talk a little bit about propaganda. What is propaganda? And the propaganda that's been used against Black people. So we'll just talk about that. And then I'll get into the boarding schools, the Native American boarding schools, and you can just see how they treated our people. And, you know, a lot of people will say, a lot of fake Israelites, a lot of different groups say that Native American Indians or Mexicans are not God's chosen people. But when you look at the curses, when you look at everything they've been through, they are definitely God's chosen people, definitely fit the curses, definitely went off, just like Black people went off, and we fit the curses also. So what I forgot was last week I went over, which was an excellent class. I went over, you know, astrology. I went over horoscopes, zodiac signs. What else I went over? Smudging. There's some stuff that I left out that I want to briefly go over. So there's a video that I left out. There's some precepts that I left out, particularly the video on smudging. I want to get that. I'm gonna pull that up for y'all. And just a few precepts. These precepts is on magicians, right? One is about Pharaoh, and then another one is talking about the stargazers, right? In ancient Babylon, because we know that horoscopes and astrology, as we know it today, actually came from ancient Babylon, and throughout the years, it just was passed down through different kingdoms. So it was passed to the Greeks, it was passed to the Romans, and then now Americans also follow that same astrology. But as I brought out last week, you know, the stars and the celestial bodies have changed their coordinates. So technically, you wouldn't, if you believe in signs, you technically wouldn't even be the sign that you are, that you think you are. That's for people in the world that actually believe in that, right? It's not an exact science. You can't, there's no way to equate what's happening in the skies and in the heavens to what's going to happen in your personal life, right? So with that, let me see. Can you get? Let me pull up this. I'm gonna pull up this video real quick. That I don't know. We was moving fast and still went over time last week. Pull this video file up. Just bear with me. Here we go.
Saging for me is really settling because it's familiar to me.
See what it says. It says that this is a practice that started with plants and wood, and they would use it. They would burn it. It wasn't necessarily always sage. It was different kind of woods, different kind of herbs that are aromatic, that have a scent or a fragrance, and they would do this to cleanse their living quarters. And this was instituted by the Native American Indians, the shamans. And I just want to reiterate what I was saying before, is that the shamans were like your priests, your spiritual leaders. Also in the Bible, it talks about being against not just witchcraft, but divination. Divination is something like, they practice that a lot in like third world countries, especially Africa, where you use certain things to get an answer. Like somebody needs an answer right now for a specific situation that's happening right now. And say I just have, a spider in my yard. I look at this spider and I look at the way he makes his web, and I say, because he made his web this way and it's at this angle and all of that, I can take from that and say, well, this is what's going to happen in this situation. That's called divination. Or, they get the bones and the rocks and they shake them up and they throw them on the ground. And the way they land on the ground, you say, well, this correlates to this and that and that. And so this is what's going to happen with this situation, right? So the Native American shamans and the Aztecs, the Mayans, Aztec shamans, which actually did prophesy correctly that bearded white men were going to come and destroy their empire. They weren't able to stop it. They weren't able to predict it to where they could get their people out of harm's way. The same with the Gadites, the North American Indians. They were not able. All of the spiritualisms, burning sage, getting rid of energies, was not able to protect them from what was coming from the so-called white man, the oppressor that the Bible speaks of. All right, so I'm gonna keep going.
Although I was oblivious to what my mom was doing when I was much younger, and I'd step into the room and it smelled all kind of funky. Now, as I'm an adult and I'm a woman, I can understand how that must have settled her and kind of affirmed a lot of her.
Now that's her mom, and I'm assuming that's her father. Looks like they, met at Woodstock or during the hippie time, but she learned this from her mother. This goes back to the Bible where it tells us to not try to be with the other nations, because the other nations will steer us wrong. Not saying that this comes from Caucasian people. This comes from Native American Indians, but this is where this sister actually learned it from. She learned it from seeing her mom do it in the house, right? Let me keep going.
Her spiritual and self-work that she was doing, and to have my daughter also be around, even though she has no idea what's going on, I can see in her face, and when she smells the air, that she kind of smiles. So I think it's settling her as well, and it's becoming like a familiar scent and a familiar practice for her.
Now, I'm just going to end the video with that. So basically, smudging is something that has to do with you, like all of the things that I went over. When I went over horoscopes, smudging, what's another one? The crystals. They call this the placebo effect. And just to go back on it, the placebo effect is a study that they did when they actually had real medicine in one pill, and they had a fake pill that wasn't medicine at all. And these were supposed to
when they gave it to the patients said not only did the real medicine work, but the placebo worked also, meaning the fake pill worked. So they couldn't understand it, and they don't understand why people believe that things work that don't work. But they attribute things like this to the placebo effect, where if you already have a preconceived idea that this is going to work, or say you have a doctor, you got two doctors, you got one doctor that you like more than the other doctor just because of the way the office is, the way he talks, and you think that what he's telling you is right compared to what the other doctor is telling you, is because you have a preconceived idea of this doctor. You already believe that this doctor knows what he's talking about. And the reality is that neither one of them know what they're talking about. But when you get the advice from this specific doctor, you feel like you got the right advice, and the medicine that he gave you is actually working. That's what they mean when they say placebo effect. And so when it comes to horoscopes, you already have this preconceived idea. Like I know a lot of different brothers and sisters, right? So, like I was saying, brothers and sisters, like I know that we know people that they live their whole life by the horoscope. They live their whole life, all their movements, they believe that this is actually real. You see some people on Facebook, their name has their horoscope in it. Like, I'm Gabrielle Pisces this, I'm, such and such Aries this, Aquarius this. So we know people like that exist, but it's been proven not to actually be real, right? So we're going to drop that and give me Exodus, what I want, Exodus 7 and 11. Exodus 7 and 11.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 7, verse 11. Then Pharaoh also called the wise men and the sorcerers, now the magicians of Egypt. They also did in like manner with their enchantments.
The what? The what of Egypt?
And the sorcerers, now the magicians of Egypt.
The magicians of Egypt. Pharaoh called his wise men and his sorcerers and his magicians of Egypt. Magicians are people that they do enchantments. They cast spells. A magician is also someone that is able to make something physically move in the physical sense, right? By casting spells. You would call that the occult or rituals. Go ahead.
Now the magicians of Egypt, they also did in like manner with their enchantments. Verse 12, for they cast down every man his rod, and they became serpents.
So they cast down their rods before Moses, and their rods became serpents. They became snakes. Go ahead.
But Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods.
But Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods, meaning Aaron's snake ate up the Egyptians, the wise man's snake, right? Meaning there's no power that is higher than the power of the Most High on this earth. You know what I mean? All of the things that you think are powerful and the things that we attribute to having some type of effect in our life, they are, they don't pale in comparison to the things of the Most High. If you could drop that, and I want to get Isaiah 47 and 13. Now, if you was here in last class, you realize that I'm going over some things that I wasn't able to get to last week.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 47, verse 13. Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsel.
The Lord said, the Lord is talking to the Israelites. He's saying, you are wearied, meaning you tired you know that thing like when you burnt out, you're tired in the multitude of your counsels. Like you got all of these things that you go to for counsel. Black and Hispanic people have all of these things they believe in, and they go to get an answer of what's going on in their life. Right? Go ahead.
Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee.
The Lord said, let the monthly what? Read that part again. Let the monthly. The Lord is being funny. He's being what is it? He sarcastic. Like, okay, you worry, you tired with all of this crap you believe in. Go ahead.
Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, and the monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee.
He said, now let the monthly stargazers and astrologers and prognosticators, let them save you. Go to them and see if they can save you from what's going to come about, what's going to come. He's being funny. He's like, since you want to believe in, the stars and the celestial bodies and horoscopes, and you want to believe in mediums, and you want to believe in sage and all of this stuff, let that save you. Let go ahead, see if that's going to save you when the next pestilence come on America. That's worse, 10 times worse than COVID-19. Let's see if those things are going to save you. Is that it on it? Oh, you could drop that. Yeah, so that's just some things that I want to go over from last class that I wasn't able to get to, right? What I want. Let me see. So we're going to get into some biblical history, right? Give me, if you could, pull up the definition of propaganda. Anybody that's watching right now, dude, put it in the comments if you know what propaganda is. I'm gonna wait for some people to put it in there. I'm gonna send you this one. Let me send you this real quick. If you know what propaganda is, or just give me your idea. There's no right or wrong answer, Israel. So I want people to engage. So if you know what propaganda is, just put it in the comments. Or you got an idea of what propaganda is, go ahead and comment. Like I gotta, I don't got you on Facebook, huh? I gotta send it to myself, then send it to you. Let's see. Send it. Let me see. Anybody put in there misleading someone or something? Olivia Arnold, yes. That is part of propaganda. Definitely. I'll take that. Black Dazzle. Biased political information. Definitely too. That's definitely propaganda. Like we see a lot of propaganda with politicians that use that against each other by putting out advertisements in the media, Young man B, Shalom, how much I Hey, Shalom from him. Hey, Shalom. Yeah, anybody else? What is propaganda? What in your there's no wrong answer, no right or wrong answer. We all learning here, and we all, breaking things down. Copy. Send this to you. In a minute, I'm gonna have the brother read the definition out of the Britannica. I sent that to you. Any more? Nope, there's no more. All right. Let me know when you got it. You got it. To promote something. Khan, Sister Barathanawa. Go ahead.
Propaganda. In presenting a background, an environment, and characters who behave in a certain way, every motion picture may be said to be propaganda.
It said when you present something in a certain way, and with characters in the background, every motion picture could be propaganda. So everything you watch as far as television and programs, that could be propaganda. Go ahead.
The term is usually restricted. However, the pictures made deliberately to influence opinion or to argue a point.
So it says that these things are put together deliberately to what?
To influence opinion.
To influence opinion, right? Like the sister said, it could be something political, right? Or misleading political information, biased information. Go ahead.
Or to argue a point.
Or to argue a point, right? Keep reading.
During the 20th century, the most powerful and most consistent use of the cinema for propaganda was seen in the Soviet Union. After the 1917 revolution, Soviet films exploded on the screen with fervent conviction. Gradually, however,
let me see. Hold on 1 second. Let me see. You know the biggest propaganda that they talk about is the propaganda of the Nazis against the so-called Jewish people, right? I remember we went to the me and my red, we had went to the Holocaust Museum, and in that Holocaust Museum, it gives you a base history, of course, of what the Holocaust in the Jewish experience. So, mind you, I'm like into history, so I'm trying to find a connection between the Jewish people today and the Israelites of the Bible. Right. Needless to say, we all know I didn't find that. There's nothing they have in that quote unquote museum that even connects them to the ancient world. Everything is modern. Everything is just modern history. And so they actually showed how the Nazis would put out propaganda through museums. They would have museums where there were pictures of the so-called Jewish people, making them look like little short, shrewd businessmen. Just propaganda, saying like making Nazis look like they are a pure Aryan race. They are a pure race. They are like, the epitome of whiteness and blondness and beauty. And these people were not. So that was a lot of propaganda. So propaganda has a way to sway opinion. And so when you look at propaganda in America, a lot of propaganda has come out that has negatively affected Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. If you could, I still need some more on that article. Let me get to where I want it. It's a lot here, huh? So I think I might have sent you one I think I may have sent you one that is dealing with film. But when it comes to propaganda, does it say anything about film right there?
Film?
Yeah, like the industry.
Not necessarily the industry, the Soviet film industry.
Okay. Where was you at?
Getting right into the Soviet part.
Okay. Go ahead. I want you to skip down to the next paragraph.
Right. A few filmmakers?
Yes.
Few filmmakers would admit to making propaganda, although, in effect, many so-called educational films and all advertising or promotional shorts, whether featuring consumer products, vacation sites, or religious groups, may be seen as examples of propaganda.
So when it comes to propaganda can be film, it can be movies, it can also be educational films. And it also, this is something that we all know, or you didn't know. If you didn't know, you know now. Advertising, ads. That's like the biggest thing that affects us in the Black community because we're the number one consumers. We're at the bottom of everything, But when it comes to consumers, I think we might rank about like number 10 or 11 as far as nations. Yes, they rank us as a nation of people, a group of people in our spending, how much money we spend on consumer products. Like we consume a lot of things because of advertising. It also says promotional shorts, consumer products, religious groups, and vacation sites. Now, when it comes to propaganda, it's images, it's things on ears, and you really don't realize that it's giving you a biased message about a certain group of people. You don't realize that it's doing that to you, and that's the strength of images. I believe, if I'm remembering right, when it comes to images, or when it comes to what somebody is telling you, you're more likely. I don't know if you can look this up. You're more likely, you're going to remember something a lot more, probably like 5 to 6 times a greater than if it has images with what's being said. So if there's a pictures that with what's being said, you're more likely to remember it versus if somebody is just talking to you. If you're just hearing words, if you're just reading words, you're not going to remember that, but you'll remember if they stick images to it. So in the Black and Hispanic community, they've always had images about, negative images. They're called caricatures. Back in the day, they used to make postcards of, Black people eating watermelon, Native American Indians doing powwows in a circle, having, a teepee and, having bow and arrows. The Red Sox, what was it? The Red Sox sign? What was the one? The Indian, the baseball team. I think they took it down. Redskins. That's the football team, right? The Redskins. What was the one with the Indians with the big old smile? It was an Indian with a big old. I think it might have been the Indians. It's a baseball team. You guys, it's an Indian with a big old smile. He's cheesing. He's red with a feather in his head. But they've always pushed certain images in the media, in advertising about Black and Hispanic people that make people negatively look at us in a different way. They had the caricature, or they had the propaganda that the Black woman was, receiving all the welfare, barefoot and pregnant, and getting all the food stamps and all the public assistance, and just, draining taxpayer dollars. That was a propaganda that they pushed. They also pushed that Black men were, lazy, drug dealers, good for nothing, shucking and jiving, hanging on the corner. That was an image also. That Native American Indians were, alcoholics and drunks and on a reservation, right? So propaganda has always been pushed on us. If you could give me Deuteronomy 28 and 37.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 37. Mm-hmm. Thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee.
Right. So we became an astonishment. We became a byword. We became something that people would look at us and make fun of us. We became something that is not our name that was given to us by the Lord. And through propaganda, they was able to attain that goal, which destroyed the image of Black and Hispanic people. That made us look like, like we were unworthy and that we were the problem. We were criminals and thugs, and we crossed the border, and we just were people that were unruly and uncivilized. People that, couldn't get along, couldn't survive in civilization, because we come from mud huts, and we come from teepees, and we come from, adobe buildings. So so it was going to be hard to civilize us. And that we were this unruly people that rejected being civilized. Read it from the top again.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 37. and thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb and a byword.
We became an astonishment. So the people that actually know that we are God's chosen people, the people that actually, the other nations that realize who we are, the other nations that always have known who we are astonished at what we have become. We have become what the propaganda has said about us. We have literally become those things. Now, when you look at us in modern times, you just look at our relationships. You look at the things that we are talking about on social media, because social media has become a window into looking into Black and Hispanic lifestyle. So you look into social media and you can see exactly what we have become. And when you look at what we have become, you're astonished at how we have fallen so low, how we have fallen so far from the law, statute, and commandments, and being such a people that you're supposed to look at and say, dang, we need to be like them. We should be going to them and asking them, what do they think about the issues and the situations within our society? Black people are not the first people they think about when you want to solve problems in the world today. You don't think about Black people. When you think about Black people, you think about, twerking, drug selling, pimping, whoring. You think about all of these negative things that movies and television and the media have basically put into your mind, right? And a lot of times we don't even think that we could be any different. There's been propaganda that Black men don't love their children and that they abandon their children and they are not in the household. That's propaganda. You know, they came out with a study. If you could give me that study, they came out with a study from the CDC, 2015, that said that Black men are more involved with their children, are more active with their children, read more with their children than any other man, whether they live in a house or not. This was a study that came out. But does that matter? No, it doesn't matter, because the job of propaganda has been done. The job of propaganda has made it to, it's seared in your brain that, Black men ain't nothing. Black men leave their children. Meanwhile, the Black man just couldn't get along with the woman, and he still wants to be in the life of his child. But the image that's been projected, the propaganda that has been pushed down your throat, is that he's not a good man. He abandons his children. I believe it's the absent father myth.
The absent father myth?
Yeah, myth. It's a CDC study, but you can just put that in. You should get some results, right? Let me see. I was not read. Salaki, I wasn't on the comments, but the water for that, the Red Sox. The Red Sox. Let me just pull up a picture. This is the type of propaganda that was going on in the early 1900s. Now this is for educational purposes, because it is insinuating sexual promiscuity, but that's just one part of it. Let's see. This is these are caricatures right here. So what you have here is racist caricatures. These are images that would end up in newspapers. They would end up in comic books, postcards that Caucasian Americans shared amongst themselves. And this is this is propaganda also. So I'm gonna start from the left to the right. Now you see it's a Black woman, in her underwear. And just to bring it home, they would draw Black people in such a grotesque way, right? And so she's got her leg up, you got her hair, the lips, the typical darky or pickaninny image that you see a lot when you look at research these type of pictures, right? She's basically sexually promiscuous is what they're insinuating with this picture. Now you go to the brother, and he's got all gold teeth, and the two in the middle are dice. Like they're like niggas like to love to shoot dice. They love to shoot dice, and they love to put some gold in their mouth. This is a racist caricature, also known as propaganda, to demean a race of people. Now I'll move on to the far left, right? And you have the quintessential image of the black mammy. The mammy was the she took care of the master's house, cleaned the house, washed the clothes, cooked the food, and served them at their every beck and call. And she's trying to put on clothes for what looks like a little girl, or I can't tell, but I'm assuming it's a little girl because it got earrings, right? This is racist caricature to make you look at a people as though they are uncivilized and they are undeserving of any type of love, any type of respect. And that is America for you. You understand? You got that for me?
I couldn't find it.
Black missing father, the myth of absent missing fathers. Get that for me. The myth of absent missing fathers. This is a more modern one. Okay. This is Serena Williams. I don't know if y'all remember that when Serena Williams, she had a match where she had to argue at the judge. You know, the judge that sits there up at the seat because I guess he wasn't calling something right or something. It was a big deal. Later on, a Caucasian cartoonist drew this picture and it made the papers. And this is also a racist caricature, which is basically saying that black woman is unruly. She's, she can't get along. She's throwing a temper tantrum because she's not getting her way. When in reality, she was just arguing the point. And so what it does is take the humanity away from you, and people look at you like you're some damn animal and some damn brute. You find something? All right, go ahead and give me that.
This is the myth of the missing black father. Statistics show that close to 70% of all births to black mothers are non-marital, giving rise to the stereotype that black fathers are largely absent. However, while black fathers are less likely than white and Hispanic fathers to marry their child's mother, many black fathers continue to parent through cohabitation and visitation, providing caretaking, financial, and in-kind support.
Okay, hold that right there. So it says, while black men don't marry black women as much as Hispanic and white men, they do what? They support their children.
Right.
Well, financially,
it says, while black fathers are less likely than white and Hispanic fathers to marry their child's mother, many black fathers continue to parent through cohabitation and visitation, providing caretaking, financial, and in-kind support.
So they continue to parent through cohabitation, and through what was the next one? Visitation, and
providing caretaking,
providing caretaking,
financial,
and
in-kind support,
and any kind of support,
in-kind
support. So although they're not marrying the women, if they do break up with the woman, they're still there for their children, whether they're in a good standing with the mother or not. Keep reading.
This volume reacts to the meaning of black fatherhood and its many manifestations, exploring two parents' families, cohabitation, single custodial fathering, stepfathering, non-custodial visitation, and parenting by extended family members and friends. Contributors examine the way in which black men perceive and decipher their parenting responsibilities, paying careful attention to psychosocial, economic, and political factors that affect the ability to parent.
You can hold that. So you can go look this up for yourself, this study up for yourself. The results of the study is basically that black men are better fathers than any other race in America, whether they live with the child or not. This is something you don't know because the propaganda in your mind will tell you that black men ain't black men, they abandon their children. That's the propaganda. You know what I mean? And so that's the point. The images that they push down our throat, the things they say about us, these things stick with us. These things, we take these into other generations. We pass these on to our children, if not for the truth, if not for if it wasn't a phenomenon to stop you and wake you up out of that negative cycle, you would keep perpetuating the same lies, the same propaganda to future generations. All right. So we're going to stop with that. You can drop that. If you could give me, we're going to move on to King Hazael of Aram, also known as Syria. Give me 1 Kings 19 and 15. This is the proof that the Bible, this is, a good, these are good precepts to prove that the Bible is real.
7 and 19, right?
19 and 15. 1 Kings 19 and 15.
This is the book of 1 Kings, chapter 19, verse 15. And the Lord said unto him, Go, return on thy way to the wilderness of Damascus. And when thou comest, anoint Hazael to be king over Syria.
So Hazael was a man in the court of Ben-Hadad, which was a king that he had became ill, king of Syria. And right here is the Lord telling Elijah that he would anoint Hazael king of Syria. Now, Elijah didn't actually end up anointing him. It was his right man, his right-hand man, Elisha, who actually did the anointing. All right. So if you could, and this Hazael was not an Israelite. So I'm showing you something where the Lord is using other people, and this is going to be a long series because in here we're going to cover, probably next week we'll cover Ahab and Jezebel, so we can see how this all ends. So in summary, the king of Israel, Ahab, had been coming against the prophets of the Lord. And coming against the prophets of the Lord devised a different plan. So he not only raised up Jehu, who was he not only raised up Jehu he was of the tribe, not the tribe, but of Israel. He also raised up Hazael and had him anointed as king so that he can come against the Israelites. See, the Lord always used other nations as his whipping stick, as his way of chastising the Israelites. The Lord didn't come down from the sky with a big hand and hit the Israelites. He used the Syrians, he used the Egyptians, he used the Babylonians, he used different nations to come and get us correct and make us rethink our sins against him. Go ahead. Salaki, 2 Kings 8 and 7. 2 Kings 8 and 7. Let me pull up the Salaki. I forgot I gotta pull up the slide. And I started before. You're good. You're good. This is the so we're going to be going over the kingdom of Aram, right? In the 9th century BC. Aram is Damascus, or the Syrians. Go ahead.
This is the book of 2 Kings, chapter 8, verse 7.
And let me just say before he starts, this is a statue that was found of King Hazael. Now, to the trained eye, you can see that these were not Arab people. They were not Edomites. They were a dark-skinned people. Go ahead.
The book of 2 Kings, chapter 8, verse 7. And Elisha came to Damascus, and Ben-Hadad, the king of Syria, was sick. And it was told him, saying, the man of God is come hither.
So Ben-Hadad was sick. Ben-Hadad was the king of Syria at this time, and he heard that Elijah had come, in the city. Go ahead.
Verse 8. And the king said unto Hazael, take a present in thine hand and go.
So Hazael was a man in the king's court of Ben-Hadad's court. And he told him, take a present and go. Go meet up with this man of God. Go meet up with this seer, this prophet of the God of Israel. Go ahead.
And the king said unto Hazael, take a present in thine hand and go, meet the man of God, and inquire of the Lord by him, saying, shall I recover of this disease? Verse 9.
Now Ben-Hadad was sick, he had a disease, and he inquired of the Lord. He was not an Israelite. Go ahead.
Verse 9. So Hazael went to meet him and took a present with him, even a very good thing of Damascus, 40 camels burdened, and came and stood before him and said, thy son Ben-Hadad, king of Syria, hath sent me to thee, saying, shall I recover of this disease?
So Ben-Hadad sent Hazael, and Hazael brought presents, and he came to the Elisha, and he said, your son have sent me, Ben-Hadad, and he wants to know, basically, am I going to heal from this disease? Go ahead.
Verse 10. And Elisha said unto him, go, say unto him thou mayest certainly recover. Howbeit, the Lord hath showed me that he shall surely die.
Hold on, let me get there real quick. Let me get there real quick. Read it again. Called out the verse.
The book of 2 Kings, chapter 8, verse 11. Also like it. Verse 10. And Elisha said unto him, go, say unto him, thou mayest certainly recover. Howbeit, the Lord has showed me that he shall surely die.
So Elisha told Ben-Hadad to go back to your king and tell him that he will recover, but he's not going to recover. He's going to die. Go ahead.
Verse 11. And he settled his countenance steadfastly until he was ashamed, and the man of God wept. Verse 12.
So it said Hazael settled his countenance until he was ashamed, and he said the man of God wept. Elisha wept. He started to cry. Go ahead.
Verse 12. And Hazael said, why weepeth my Lord? And he answered, because I know the evil that thou wilt do unto the children of Israel. Their strongholds wilt thou set on fire, and their young men wilt thou slay with a sword, and will dash their children and rip up their women with child.
So Hazael asked Elisha, why are you crying, my Lord? And Elisha said, because he knows the evil that he will do to the children of Israel, and that he will set on fire, and he will destroy their young men and slay them with the sword and rip up the children and women with child. Go ahead.
Verse 13. And Hazael said, but what? Is thy servant a dog that he should do this great thing? And Elisha answered, the Lord has showed me that thou shalt be king over Syria.
So Hazael said, am I a dog that I'm going to do this? How can somebody like me of my stature do something like this? And Elisha said, the Lord has showed me that you're going to be king over Syria. So Hazael didn't think that he was going to do all of those things, or he was capable of doing all of those things. But Elisha had already seen the future through the prophecy of the Lord. Where we at?
Verse 14.
Keep going.
Verse 14. So he departed from Elisha and came to his master, who said to him, what did Elisha to thee? And he answered, he told me that thou shouldest surely recover. Verse 15. And it came to pass on the morrow.
So when Hazael went back to Ben-Hadad, he said, what did Elisha say? He said, Hazael said, Elisha said, you will recover. But on the next day, keep reading.
And it came to pass on the morrow that he took a thick cloth and dipped it in water and spread it on his face so that he died.
So on the next day, Hazael took a cloth and he put it in water and he suffocated Ben-Hadad. He suffocated him. He put the sickly king, he put him to death. And it says what? What happened?
And spread it on his face so that he died. And Hazael reigned in his stead.
And he reigned in his stead, and he became the king. Now get 2 Kings 8:26. Skip up and just hold that real quick. And I just want to say, let me just go to this real quick. This is the basalt statue of Shalmaneser III. And on that inscription, this is the Assyrians, right? And on the inscriptions, they say that Hazael is a son of a nobody. The reason why this is so poignant is because in the biblical record, Hazael was not in the bloodline to be a king. He took the throne. And the Assyrians recognized him as a son of a nobody, meaning your bloodline really meant something. It was a big deal if somebody that didn't come from king's blood was on the throne. You understand? And this is something that is in the historical archaeological record. These are biblical figures in the Bible that we are not only reading about, but there's artifacts and archaeology on these people. All right. What I would ask for? 2 Kings 8:26. Let's get it.
The book of 2 Kings, chapter 8, verse 26. 22 years old was Ahaziah when he began to reign. He reigned 1 year in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Athaliah, the daughter of Omri, king of Israel.
So Isaiah, right? He began to reign in Jerusalem, and he was basically of the seed of Israel. He was a northern kingdom. Go ahead. He was a king of the northern kingdom. Go ahead.
Verse 27. And he walked in the way of the house of Ahab. And
he walked in the way of Ahab. Ahab was a wicked king that had a wicked woman named Jezebel that sinned against the Lord. And this king of Israel, he walked also in the ways of Ahab. Go ahead.
He walked in the way of the house of Ahab and did evil in the sight of the Lord, as did the house of Ahab, for he was the son-in-law of the house of Ahab. Verse 28. And he went with Joram, the son of Ahab, to the war against Hazael, king of Syria, in Ramoth Gilead. And the Syrians wounded Joram.
Now King Joram was the king of Judah. So the king Isaiah and Joram, king of Israel and Judah, came together to fight Hazael. Go ahead. 28.
Verse 28. He went to Joram, the son of Ahab, to the war against Hazael, king of Syria, in Ramoth Gilead, and the Syrians wounded Joram.
And the Syrians wounded Joram, meaning they were defeated by Hazael. Hazael was a rough dude. Hazael was he was not just somebody that was doing his own thing. Remember, he was anointed by the Lord himself to be a king. So he was anointed by the God of Israel, but the records hold him as a son of a nobody because of the way he came into power. But now you got both the king of Israel and Judah, who was sinning against the Lord, coming against Hazael, and they were both defeated. And the king of Judah was injured. If you could drop that and give me 2 Kings 10 and 32. 10 and 32.
This is the book of 2 Kings, chapter 10, verse 32. In those days, the Lord began to cut Israel short, and Hazael smote them in all the coasts of Israel.
It says, in those days, the Lord began to cut Israel short, right? I want you to skip up. Go to 31.
Verse 31. But Jehu took no heed to walk in the law of the Lord God of Israel with all his heart. For he departed not from the sins of Jeroboam, which made Israel to sin.
So Israel was sinning again, right? And because of that sin, this is what happened. Go ahead.
Verse 32. In those days, the Lord began to cut Israel short, and Hazael smote them in all the coasts of Israel.
In those days, the Lord started to cut Israel short, and Hazael was able to defeat them wherever he went in all the coasts of Israel. Keep reading.
Verse 33. From Jordan eastward, all the land of Gilead, the Gadites and the Reubenites and the Manassites, from Arar, which is by the river Arnon, even Gilead and Bashan. Now the rest of the acts of Jehu,
you can drop that. So Hazael was tearing it up. He was running through Israel like it wasn't nothing, because Israel was sinning against the Lord, and Hazael had been set up by the Lord. This is the thing, man. When it comes to the powers and the principalities that we see on the earth today, all of those things are set up by the Lord. All of the people that we look at as our enemies and our adversaries, they're set up by the Lord. The Lord is setting them up. And because of our sins, we lose every time. Because of our sins, we are oppressed. Because of our sins, we're crying out and we're begging for justice. We're asking God, when is this going to stop? Because of our sins, man. And the Lord have set you think that our oppressor is stronger than us and better than us? He's not. Right. But because of our sins, the Lord have allowed him to be in charge and to be in power. And it won't be until we turn and seek the east, turn and face the east and seek our God and remember who we are as a nation of people, then the Lord might have mercy on to us. Right. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to some of that. If you could give me 2 Kings 12 and 17. 2 Kings 12 and 17.
This is the book of 2 Kings, chapter 12, verse 17. Then Hazael, king of Syria, went up and fought against Gath and took it.
So Hazael, he even went up and fought against the Philistines and took Gath. Remember, that's where Goliath was from. Gath, right? He took it. Go ahead.
And Hazael set his face to go up to Jerusalem.
Then he set his face to go to Jerusalem, the holy city. He said, you know what? Now I'm going to go. He was just a conqueror. He was just, and remember what all of this that Hazael is doing. Remember when he was anointed king, Elisha cried because he's seen all of the terror that Hazael was going to commit. He's seen what Hazael was capable of and what he was going to do. And now he's doing it. He just took the Philistine city. Now he's looking to go take Jerusalem. Go ahead.
Verse 18. And Jehoash, king of Judah, took all the hallowed things that Jehoshaphat and Joram and Ahaziah, his fathers, kings of Judah, had dedicated, and his own hallowed things and all the gold that was found in the treasures of the house of the Lord and in the king's house, and sent it to Hazael, king of Syria. And he went away from Jerusalem.
So now the king Joash, he basically, Jehoash, right, king of Judah, when Hazael's coming up there to take Jerusalem, he gets all the hollow things. He gets all the gold. He gets all the goodly things that was consecrated, all of the good things in the house of God, and he gives it to him as spoils, right? And that turned Hazael away. Hazael was like, okay, I'll take this. I ain't gonna come up there and slaughter everybody. I ain't gonna come to Jerusalem and take it. I'll take what you're giving me. And that turned him away. He basically bribed him not to destroy Jerusalem, right? I'm telling you, Hazael was a bad dude. He was not playing, right? Give me 2 Kings 13 and 22.
This is the book of 2 Kings, chapter 13, verse 22. Well, Hazael, king of Syria, oppressed Israel all the days of Jehoash.
Hazael oppressed Israel. He was a terror in the minds of the men in Israel. He oppressed Israel. The same way blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians are oppressed today in the West Indies, in Europe, in the Americas. Hazael oppressed Israel, right? But there's a reason why they was getting oppressed. It wasn't just because, they didn't do anything wrong. Go ahead.
Verse 23. And the Lord was gracious unto them and had compassion on them and had respect unto them because of his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
So the Lord was gracious unto them. The Lord had compassion on the Israelites. He remembered the covenant between Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Keep reading.
And would not destroy them, neither cast he them from his presence as yet. So Hazael, king of Syria, died. And
Hazael, king of Syria, what?
Died. And Ben-Hadad.
Hazael, listen, this is so heavy. Hazael died. He died because the Lord had compassion and he remembered the covenant between Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Remember, Hazael was set up by the Lord. The Lord had Elisha go and anoint Hazael. And Elisha, a man of God, cried because he could see what this dude was finna do. He could see all the wickedness, all of the wars, all of the bloodshed that was going to happen to the Israelites because of Hazael was ruling on the earth. And the Lord had compassion on the Israelites, and then the terror and the oppression went away. Hazael died because he remembered the covenant. Isn't that what you want? Isn't that what blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians want? We talk about the oppression of the so-called Caucasian man. I gotta be correct. We trying to move differently online. You talk about the oppression of these people that come from the caves. You talk about the oppression of law enforcement. You talk about the images, the propaganda, the sexual images that they put on television, the things they push in the music industry, and you want it to go away and you want to change. Well, if you just turn to the Lord, if you just remember the covenant that the Lord gave to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, if you get into this truth, if you start keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, maybe the Lord will look at us and have compassion.
Right.
And then the oppressor will just go away. That's right. He'll just die. He'll just be unalived. I gotta get used to the new lingo. He'll just be unalive. Whether it's by his own hands or some other, heathen's hands, he will just be unalive. Right. And all it takes is for the Lord to have compassion and remember the covenant. But he can't remember the covenant. He can't look at us and have respect to us if we continue to do the things that we're doing. If we're searching for all types of different spiritualities and things that don't have no power, like sage, burning sage, or like horoscopes, or like going to familiar spirits, going to mediums and trying to conjure up the dead to get answers for your life today. He can't have respect. He can't have compassion on us, because then we just look like some hard-headed, stiff-necked, rebellious people that we always been. Right? Is there any more on that?
Okay. So Hazael, king of Syria, died, and Ben-Hadad, his son, reigned in his stead.
And then when Hazael died, Ben-Hadad, his son, reigned in his stead. His son was going to try to do the same thing as Pops did. I'm going to put my foot on all their necks, from Israel to Gath to Assyria. I'm trying to defeat everybody. And in the biblical record, in the historical record, they said Hazael he basically was able to do all of that, and he was able to keep the Assyrians from conquering him. So he fought battles on all ends. The Assyrians was a mighty empire, and Hazael was able to hold them back. So Hazael was actually a force to be reckoned with in this time period. Go ahead.
Verse 25. And Jehoash, the son of Jehoaz, took again out the hand of Ben-Hadad, the son of Hazael, the cities, which he had taken out of the hand of Jehoash, his father, by war. 3 times did Jehoash beat him and recovered the cities of Israel.
So now the king of Judah recovered the cities of Israel from Hazael's son, Ben-Hadad. So everything that had been taken in the years prior, when Hazael was just destroying and ripping and tearing through everything, now all of those things were given back. And that's because of the Lord had compassion and remembering the covenant between Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's simply that. It's just that simple. When we talk about getting up out of here, when we talk about, in the I.S.U.P.K, we say separate. When we talk, and in a lot of y'all minds, y'all think that it's carnal. Y'all remember that time when during COVID-19, where it was the militia, it was ran by what's the dude named Jam Master Jay? It was a brother. It was a lot of black brothers. Everybody had guns, and they was marching and going everywhere. Then one minute they were here, and the next minute they were gone. I don't even know what happened to them, right? But black people was rallying behind that. Like, yeah, we need to grab arms. Everybody need to get them an AR-15, M16. Everybody need to grab arms. We need to protest. We need to go stand. We need to march on the Capitol. We need to go here. We need to go there. And then now that whole thing is nothing. It then came to nothing. But even more important, if you could give me this precept, the weapons of our war are not carnal, right? Let me look at the comments. Let me look at the comments, right? While the brother get that, I'm just going to shout out brothers and sisters in the class. Dasha Allah, my main man, he's up in here. Sister Barata now was up in here. Cross the Line Radio is up in here. Ashar, okay. Shalom, Lord in Christ. Renee Gaines is up here. Shalom, sister. Olivia Arnold, always up in here. Black Dazzle, Shalom, sister. She's up in here. Young Man B is up in here. Lord in Christ. Who else we got up in here? Let me see. Amara Shiraz up in here. Shalom. That's my rib. Sis, I don't see your name, so I can't really salagi on that. I can't remember your name, but Shalom. Jess, she's up in here. Sister from Bakersfield. You know what I mean? Zayan Ya'ala, Shalom, Lord in Christ. What's good? You got it? Give me that.
This is the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 10, verse 14.
Mm-hmm.
For we stretch not ourselves beyond our measure, as though we reached not unto you. For we have come as far as to you into preaching the gospel of Christ.
Is that what I want? My weapons are not carnal?
Oh, so like it's 10 and 4.
Yeah.
The book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 10, verse 4. Mm-hmm. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal.
The weapons of our warfare are not carnal. And so we think that we need guns and we need all of these things to bring down this kingdom. We don't need all of that to bring down this kingdom. The Lord could just have compassion on us and this kingdom will fall. Right. The Lord, we didn't have to lift a finger to come out of Egypt. The Egyptians had chariots and they had all of those things of war, weapons of war. We were the working class, the field hands in ancient Egypt. We didn't have weapons of war. You know what I mean? We didn't have none of those things. What the Lord did is he brought the death angel through. And the firstborn of all of Egypt died. And that's all it took. And we were free. You understand? Keep reading.
For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds.
Khan, sis, Khan. Wait, read that one more time.
For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds.
Our weapons of war are not carnal, but mighty through the Most High, through pulling down strongholds, right? So we're not gonna get out of this captivity by picking up guns. Listen, they make all the bullets, they make all the guns. When you run out of bullets, who are you gonna go to? You got to go to your enemy for the bullets. You know what I mean? You got to go to them and, reload when you run out. They the one dropping it. If you ever wonder why all of these illegal weapons get into the hood, they're the ones dropping them off in trains and in places and making backhanded deals with brothers in the streets and getting all of these, switches and these AR-15s and all of these guns that ain't supposed to be in certain urban areas. How you think they get there? They get there because your oppressor is the devil that the Bible speaks of. He wants you to destroy yourself. He wants you to kill yourself off. In a lot of instances, that's what we do. We hurt ourselves, right? So we're gonna drop that. We can just drop that. Let's get. I'm gonna go to now. I got a couple of videos now. You don't have to bear with me. Some of these things is hard to watch and hard to listen to, but we need to get a real understanding of what our Native American brothers and sisters, the Gadites, went through, and just to see that we are all the same. The oppression that Black people suffered in the transatlantic slave trade is no different than the oppression that our Hispanic brothers suffered when the Spanish conquistadors came and massacred the Aztec and the Mayans and those different tribes. It's no different than when the Europeans first came over here and made deals and shook hands with the Native American Indians, and then turned around and stole their land from up under them. So first, if you could, I'll just hold the precepts. I'm just going to pull up some of these videos. Share the screen. This is the first one.
Is steadily increasing. And that was an obstacle to total American expansion. So the U.S. found a report said, instead of dying out under the light and contact of civilization, the Indian population is steadily increasing. And that was an obstacle to total American expansion. So the U.S. found a new solution to absorb and assimilate them. It all started.
So the oppressor figured out that even with everything they were doing, the Native American Indians kept increasing, right? They kept multiplying. They kept having babies, and the things they were implementing wasn't stopping them. So they said, now we're going to assimilate them, meaning we're going to make them like us. Okay, let me keep going.
Started with an experiment and a man named Richard Henry Pratt.
He had in his charge some prisoners of war, and he taught these men how to speak English, how to read and write, and how to do labor. He dressed them in military uniforms and basically ran an assimilation experiment. And then he took his results to the federal government and said, they're capable of being civilized. So he was able to get this project funded.
In 1879, the government funded Pratt's project, the first ever off-reservation boarding school for Native American children. His motto was to kill the Indian and save the man.
I'm sure that you heard that before. His motto was to kill the Indian and save the man. So kill the spirit within you. Kill everything that you know about yourself and basically wipe your slate clean. That's also happened to Black people. That also happened after the transatlantic slave trade. You could not read, you could not write. You had to relearn everything. You had to learn English. Matter of fact, in a lot of cases, you could not read. You could not, you better not get caught with a book, or you could be put to death or severely beaten. Let me keep going.
What started there at the Carlisle Indian Industrial School was nothing short of genocide, disguised as American education. Children were forcibly taken from reservations and placed into the school, hundreds, even thousands of miles away from their families. They were stripped of their traditional clothing, their hair was cut short. They were given new names and forbidden from speaking their native languages.
To take our children and to indoctrinate them into Western society, to take away their identity as indigenous peoples, their tribal identity. I think it's one of the most effective and insidious ways that the U.S. did do harm to indigenous peoples here because it targeted our children, our most vulnerable. And they tried to make us ashamed for being Indian, and they tried to make us something other than Indian.
There are also accounts of mental, physical, and sexual abuse, of forced manual labor, neglect, starvation, and death.
My great-grandfather went to Carlisle, and nobody in my family ever talked about it. So if you Google Indian boarding schools, the majority of the pictures that you will see will be actually from Carlisle. Colonel Pratt created propaganda. He hired a photographer to create those before and after photos to show that his experiment was working. So it was, intentional propaganda.
On the one hand, we have the Navajo as we find him in the desert. Few of these boys and girls have ever seen a white man. Yet, through the agencies of the government, they are being rapidly brought from their state of comparative savagery and barbarism to one of civilization.
You hear that? Propaganda. Talked about the propaganda was to take the Native American Indians, cut their hair, and then lighten up the picture and make them look like they had assimilated into European culture. And right there, you heard them say that we take them from savagery and barbarism to being basically like us. If you could give me Deuteronomy 28 and 47. Got to understand why these things happen to the Native American Indians. Why these things happen to God's chosen people. Man.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 47. Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness.
Because we serve not the Lord thy God with joyfulness. We are such a hard-headed people and stiff-necked and want to do what we want to do and live how we want to live and worship how we want to worship, where the Lord had outlined everything on how we should operate, but we didn't want to do it. And so now we had to suffer like this. The Gadites had to suffer that. Their children being taken away hundreds of miles from, just imagine somebody busting in your house and taking your children, and you have no say over it. And then when your children are at these places, they get molested. They're getting beat. You can't, if you speak your native tongue, you get hit. Go ahead.
Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee.
And we had to serve them in want of all things. Those Gadites lived on this land hundreds of years before any white man ever landed on this land, and had no problem with taking care of their families, no problem with feeding themselves, no problem with housing themselves. And all of a sudden now we're dependent on them. All of a sudden now you're dependent on them to be civilized, to have culture, to learn English, to get a haircut, to live, to actually just live. When your forefathers lived, Gadites was here in American soil when Christ was walking the earth in Jerusalem. That's how long Gadites had been over here. That's how long Israelites had been on this side of the earth. But now you have this man come here, and you don't control anything. Let alone today on the reservations, the Gadites are on public assistance, barely surviving. I think it might be like $200 a month that they survive off of from public assistance from the government on reservations. Go ahead.
Verse 49. The Lord shall bring thee a nation, the Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth.
A nation from the end of the earth. This is the prophecy written 4,000 years ago in the wilderness. Go ahead.
As swift as the eagle flieth.
As swift as the eagle flieth. I mean, the riddle don't get no more easier than that.
Right.
As swift, a nation of fierce countenance, swift as the eagle fly. Go ahead.
A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand.
Whose tongue you won't understand. You won't understand their language. The North American Indians spoke different dialects. They didn't understand, the European settlers' language. They didn't understand the cavalry's language. They had to get put in boarding schools and get their haircut and learn the English. Go ahead.
Verse 50. A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of old, nor show favor to the young.
Excuse me. A nation of fierce countenance that would not, read that one more time. So
a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old.
Go ahead.
Nor show favor to the young.
This nation would not regard the old. They would not care about the old, or they wouldn't care about the young. You see that on these boarding schools. They didn't give a, you know what I want to say. They didn't care about the children. Those children got molested. They got beat. They were abused. Their motto was kill the Indian, save the man. Keep reading.
Verse 51. And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle.
You can hold that. Oh, keep going. Keep going. I got something to add for that. Keep going, because this is important too. Go.
Verse 51. And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle.
The fruit of thy cattle. Okay. Go ahead.
And the fruit of thy land.
Uh-huh.
Until thou be destroyed.
Until thou be destroyed. What happened when the white man came over here? What happened when the Europeans came over here? Did anybody know what they did to the food source of the Native American Indians? Do you know a tactic that the United States cavalry did? They killed all the buffalo. They said they're surviving off of these buffalo. I can pull up the picture. There are mountains of dead buffalo. They killed off the buffalo. So what? So that the Native Indians could depend on them, that they would now have to go to the reservation and be fed by them, fed by the United States government. They literally killed millions of buffalo for no reason at all, other than knowing that it was the food source of the Gadites, of the North American Indian. That's in history. Go look it up. Google your phone right now and look at those buffalo. It's literally piles, like little mountains of dead buffalo, right? So give me Jeremiah 5:11. And I'm gonna pull up this next video. Rock with me. Just stay with me, y'all. This is a little more into the boarding schools, right? And this is from a movie. I don't know the name of the movie, but it's a movie based on the school that the sister was just talking about, the Carlisle boarding school. Okay. So I don't know if I put up the right one, did I? This is not the right one.
Long hair was shaved off.
We'll get that one next. Carlisle, Pennsylvania, right?
Meredith?
Walter.
This is how they gave them their names.
George.
Abigail.
Come along, children. Get your clothes.
This way.
Move.
Real.
Find a bed.
expected of some of them. An Indian man only cuts his hair in times of great mourning.
Surely, if it's their tradition.
Old habit.
Y'all hear that? He said a Native American man only cuts his hair in great mourning. You know that's an Israelite custom, right? To cut your hair in mourning. In Israel, when you was in mourning, you would shave your hair and put ashes and sackcloth on your head, right? Let me keep going.
This must be unlearned. Thank you, everyone. Back to your duties.
I want you to get Psalms 137. Sure, you can drop that. I think I'll end with that.
Psalms 137?
Yeah.
Tuga Shila Oshimalayo. 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 Tuga Shila Oshimalayo.
Yeah, you know what I want to say. I can't say it, but your oppressor is the devil that the Bible speaks of. Now, when you seen that, the brother he didn't want his hair cut, and he didn't understand, and he cried out to the Most High. What they a lot of narratives, the Native American Indians called the Most High the Great Spirit. He called out to the Great Spirit and asked for compassion, and he rather would have cut his hair on his own than those devils cut his hair. If you could give me what I asked for, what I asked for, give me that.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 137, verse 7. Mm-hmm. Remember, O Lord, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem.
This is King David. King David said he asked the Lord to remember Edom. Remember Edom in the day of Jerusalem. Remember Edom in the day of our distress. Remember what Edom have done to God's chosen people over the years. Remember what he did to the Gadites, to the North American Indians, in Canada, in North America, Seminole Indians. Remember Edom. Lord, please don't forget him. Go ahead.
Remember, O Lord, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, even to the foundation thereof.
And in the day of Jerusalem, in the day of our destruction, the Edomites said, raise it, even to the foundations thereof, meaning destroy it burn it to the ground, destroy it to the ground, leave nothing but rubble. And that's what they have done all over the earth, and that's what they have done to God's chosen people wherever they encounter us. Right? If you could give me Psalms 55 and 3. When they met the North American Indians, what they said was, we're going to make treaties with you. We want to be peaceable with you. We want to get along with you. But that's not what they did. They destroyed the Gadites. They destroyed the Native American Indians. The Native American Indians were a very proud nation of people. And now today, when you look at them, They are destroyed. A lot of these tribes are destroyed on these reservations. They are the number one in suicide rate, number one in alcoholism. They are destroyed. In this destruction and in depression and oppression has been passed down to generations, even to modern times. Right. Go ahead.
The book of Psalms, chapter 55, verse 3. Because of the voice of the enemy, because of the oppression of the wicked, for they cast iniquity upon me, and in wrath they hate me. My heart is sore pain within me.
And the Native American Indians are in pain. Our brothers and sisters are in pain, just like we in pain, because the enemy has hated us. They have oppressed us. Read that from the top one more time.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 55, verse 3. Because of the voice of the enemy.
Because of the voice of the enemy. What the enemy says is that they're savages. They're criminals. They don't want to work. They're loitering. You know, they're good for nothing. You know, if you leave them alone, they won't do nothing. Because of what they say. Go ahead.
Because of the oppression of the wicked.
Because of the oppression of the wicked. Go ahead.
For they cast iniquity upon me.
And they cast iniquity upon us. They throw iniquity upon us. Point us out as the the bad guys, the scapegoat in the world. Go ahead.
And in wrath they hate me.
They hate us. This is in the Bible. I'm not making this up. Your oppressor hates you. Right. Yeah, he deals with you every day. Yeah, he says good things in the policies and the politics. He talks about, diversity and, getting along and treating people right. But the root of them, they hate you. Right. Go ahead.
Verse 4. My heart is sore pain within me, and the terrors of death are fallen upon me. Fearfulness and trembling are come upon me, and horror hath overwhelmed me.
And that's what the Native Americans felt. They felt, pain and fearfulness and trembling when this virus came to the shores of North America.
Right.
That's what they felt. For in an instant, they were unable to take care of themselves, unable to, be together in family units anymore, unable to depend on the land anymore, because now you have a virus, and now he wants to purchase land, and he wants to cut you off from the land, and he wants to own this and own that. The Gadites didn't have no concept of owning land. In this, all they knew was that they got what they took from the land, and they only used what they needed. They didn't have a concept of gobbling up every stench of land and owning land, right, like the oppressor does today. You can drop that. Skip down to verse 20 and 21.
Verse 21 or verse 20?
20, so like it, 20.
Verse 20. He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant.
This virus, he put forth his hand. He stuck out his hand towards people that be at peace with him. The Gadites were at peace. They made these treaties. They tried to show you how to live and survive the winters and the cold and all of these things. And then you turned around and did what you did to them. Read it from the top again.
Verse 20. He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him.
So this man, he put forth his hands to a people that is at peace with him. Right. The North American Indians didn't go to war when they came across these strange pale people. The people in Santo Domingo, the Taino Indians, the Arawaks, they didn't go to war with these Spaniards that came there. They were at peace with them. I believe it was said that Columbus said that these people are some of the most peaceable people that he has ever seen. Meaning when he met the Taino Indians, they were so nice and so hospitable that these savages, these Europeans, couldn't understand it. That they wrote about it like these are a peaceable people. You got to know that you're the children of God. If somebody can murder you, they can lynch you, they can do all of these horrible acts to you over the years, and you still try to love them. Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, you still try to love them. You still extend a hand of brotherhood and compassion, even when they're going through something. You see how many Black and Hispanic people cry and send their condolences when an Edomite actor dies? Like we literally are the people that hold no grudges. Like, who are more righteous and loving people than God's chosen people?
Right.
I mean, somebody can literally kill you, and you saying, "I forgive them." Somebody can literally kill your family members. That's South Carolina, was Charleston, Dylan Roof. Somebody can kill your family members, and you're saying, before your family member's body is even cold, you're saying, "I forgive him." He did what he did, but I forgive him.
Right.
The hell with that. The time, there's a time to love and there's a time to hate. Now is the time to hate, according to the Bible. I'm not loving nobody that kills my family members and my loved ones. I'm not forgiving nobody.
Right.
You understand? I don't have to. The Lord doesn't require me to do that. The Lord don't require you to do that. But God's chosen people, you give all of this love and this forgiveness to everybody else, but you don't give it to your brother that you see every day.
Right.
Go ahead.
Verse 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter.
The words of his mouth were smoother than butter. Yes, yeah. We can live. You can live here, and we'll live here, and we'll till this land, and you can have that land. He made all of these treaties with the Native American Indians. He spoke smooth words. He said all the right things. Like a man with a woman, he says all the right things to get in them draws. He says all the right things just to get what he wants. Go ahead.
But war was in his heart.
But war was in his heart. That's what the Lord created him for. The Lord, that's the blessing that he has, is warfare and military might and being cunning, being divisive and cunning and crafty and subtle, the most subtle beast of the field. That's what he was designed to be. What the Lord made crooked, you cannot make straight. Right. Because the Lord created him, and he created him crooked. Right. Is that it on it?
Wow,
go ahead.
His words were softer than oil.
His words were softer than oil. He said his words were smoother than butter, softer than oil. Go ahead.
Yet were there drawn swords.
So he was saying, yeah, we can work together. I'm gonna use this. This is a sword. Yeah, we can work together. I'll live here, you'll live there. And the whole time behind his back, he got a sword ready to strike you down the minute that you let your guard down. That was his mentality. Now he's on the land, and now you just seen in that video, he's saying, kill the Indian, save the man. Right. Meanwhile, the Indian was trying to save you, teach you how to survive on America. And when you got your strength, you went full blast with trying to exterminate the Gadites. And if you couldn't exterminate them, you tried to make them like you. If you could, that's it on that, right? Okay, this is the last video. Let me give you this video. Put this on the stage.
They tried to speak their language. They were often punished.
Let me see. Boom. Let me start it from the top. Y'all bear with me. Here we go.
A 3-story tombstone for generations of children who died here.
Sometimes I wish it would be gone for all what happened here.
You wish this had been torn down?
Yeah, I could hear everything in here, what was done. It lingers.
Leona Wolf, who comes from the Muskaugan Reserve, was 5 years old when she says she was taken from her home in 1960. School officials and police would often show up unannounced in indigenous communities and round up children, some as young as 3. Parents could be jailed if they refused to hand their children over. When kids arrived at their schools, their traditional long hair was shaved off. If they tried to speak their language, they were often punished.
They put me in a little dark room like that. And they'd shut the door, and then they'd take off the light. All I had to look through was this much light, like I was in jail.
She says the abuse many kids at Muskaugan suffered from the Catholic priests and nuns wasn't just physical.
Father Joel was fondling the girls here.
A priest, Father Joel, was fondling girls?
Yeah, this used to be sick bay. They used to have a bed here.
Says the priest was molesting the little girls there. These were Catholic priests that ran these boarding schools. And you already know, like I know, how Catholic priests get down and how they are never punished. Keep going.
He would take girls into the bedroom.
Yeah, my cousin.
He took your cousin in here. How old was she?
Yeah, she was only 8. I grew up a very, very mean woman because of all what happened to me.
You learned that here, you think?
Yeah.
She is not the only one. More than 150,000 children were sent to residential schools, which Canada's first prime minister supported to, in his words, sever children from the tribe and civilize them. For 6 years, the commission heard testimony from survivors across the country.
And she put me underwater, slapping me and hitting me, slapping me and hitting me and punching me and holding me underwater, pulling my hair. And I thought, God, she's going to kill me. I'm going to die. First day of school.
We as little boys and little girls, we lost our innocence.
In 2015, the commission concluded what happened was cultural genocide. It identified more than 3,000 children who died from disease due to overcrowding, malnutrition, and poor sanitation, or died after being abused or trying to run away. A government study in 1909 found the death rate in some schools was as high as 20 times the national average. Most schools had their own cemeteries, and sometimes when children died, their parents were never informed.
It's really traumatic for those families who don't know what happened to their child or relative in the schools.
Why weren't kids who died at the schools, why weren't they sent home?
To save money.
Last year, archaeologists detected what they said could be 200 unmarked graves at this former school in Kamloops, British Columbia. Weeks later, a further 751 unmarked graves were detected across from the former Marival Residential School on the Cowesses Reserve in Saskatchewan. There was once a Catholic cemetery here, but the headstones were bulldozed in the 1960s by a priest after a dispute with a former chief.
And what were these lists for?
So it will tell. A small team of researchers has been trying to discover the names of those children buried here, but for decades the government and the church have been reluctant to share their records. Chief Cadmus Delorme is trying to get answers.
Do you know that they're all children?
We can't verify how much are children, but based on the research we're doing, a lot of them were children that were forced to go to the Marival Residential School and died in the Marival Residential School.
Chief Delorme says he hopes to give the unidentified children a dignity in death that they never received in life.
I want to make sure that Canada knows the truth, because you can't move to reconciliation till you accept the truth.
Peter knows whose Cree understands that pain. He was 8 years old when he was taken to the Muskowgan school. His parents lived within sight of the school, and when he tried to run away, he says the priests forced him to kneel on a broom handle for 3 days.
That's where my house was. I would sit here and wonder why I couldn't be home.
That must have been devastating.
Yeah.
It wasn't only adults he feared. Some students, themselves victims of abuse, preyed on other children. Later, he says he was also sexually molested by a nun. When he left school, he was rudderless and violent and turned to alcohol. When he got married, he says, he didn't know how to show affection.
You didn't know what love was?
No. I never felt it here. I didn't start saying I loved her until we were married about 40 years, and then I was very careful how I said it.
This brother wasn't even able to say he loved the woman he was with for 40 years because of what he went through in that boarding school. That is insane. That's crazy. And this just shows you that how you raise your children, the things that you go through in your childhood does affect you in your adulthood, right? Keep going.
You didn't say to your wife for 40 years that you loved her?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As for Leona Wolf, her life and the lives of her children and grandchildren have been plagued by violence and substance abuse. Intergenerational trauma, she says, that began the day her own mother was sent to school at Muscaugan.
Did you see the impact of this place on your mom?
Yeah.
How?
By drinking a lot, being mean to me, and it impacted us, me and my brother and my siblings.
What was done to her, she passed on to you.
To me.
And what?
Y'all hear that? Do y'all hear that? That's generational curses. What's passed, what your parents did to you, you pass on to your children. If not for the truth, if not for the understanding of the Lord, then you're going to do the things that your parents did that you hated, that you didn't like. She said that these things, her mother went to the boarding school and it was passed on to her. And her life, and their life is no different than Black people's lives, Hispanic people's lives, where our lives are full of, drug abuse, crime, and just being lost in the world because of the things of the past, because of the things that the oppressor did. A lot of times we blame one another for what we're going through when we should be actually putting the blame on the person where it really belongs. And that's your oppressor. Your oppressor is where it really belongs. Let me keep going.
What was done to you and others here
Was passed on to my children. This is why sometimes I go into my rage of anger and I cry. Because it was all done to us, all of us. But it's going to stop now. It is.
You believe that?
I'm breaking the cycle with my great-grandchildren.
Let me know if you can hear it. Can you hear it? Let me know, y'all.
A three-story tombstone for generations of children who died here.
Sometimes I wish it would be gone for all what happened here.
You wish this had been.
Some
Started saying I loved her until we were married about 40 years, and then I was very careful how I said it.
You didn't say to your wife.
Oh. Okay.